Yo, what's up with it, y'all? It's JD and I'm back with another quick video. And today's video is going to be a subscriber request video, and that video is how to make that transformation and what are some of the steps that you need to make a transformation, a life-changing transformation going from your 20s to your 30s. Before we get into the video, if you guys are interested in fitness, health, travel, overall growth content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell so you can get updated every time I drop new content. But let's get back into the video. So, when you're going from your 20s to your 30s, once you're right around that time of your 30th birthday, there could be a lot of pressure, and you could put a lot of pressure on yourself thinking that, you need to have certain things in order, or you need to accomplish certain things, by the time you turn 30. And I can remember back to around that time when I was turning 30, and maybe right around my 30th birthday. And one of my older friends didn't mean any harm by it, but he was just like, man, when I was your age, when I was 30 years old, this is when I was buying my first house, and this, that, and the other. And there was all these things that I felt that I needed to have by the time I turned 30. One of them was, buying a house. That was like the biggest thing for me. Is like, oh, I don't have any property and I'm 30 years old. So, I haven't done anything. And in all reality, one of the biggest things that we need to do when we're, around that age is just kind of work on ourselves. And I'm going to give you guys some tips or some advice from my perspective on things that you can do to make a transformation around 30 years old. Because for myself, personally, I made probably the biggest self-transformation in my early 30s. It wasn't exactly at 30 years old, but I think once I got to be 30 years old, I got into that mindset that I actually needed to start making some changes. So the first piece of advice I'm going to give you guys is to develop some knowledge of self. Get to know yourself a little bit better. And in order to get to know yourself a little bit better, you're going to need some solitude. So what does that mean? That means, you might need to take yourself out of the dating scene for a while. You might need to change locations, take yourself out of certain environments that you're a little bit too comfortable in. It could be you need to move out of your hometown. Maybe you're in your hometown and you're still around your family and friends. Even if you have moved out of your hometown, maybe you've kind of developed another environment that's been extremely comfortable, and you've kind of developed some maybe not ideal habits in this environment. So starting off in a new location, change of scenery, fresh start is always a good thing. Spending a lot of time alone, kind of figuring out what things work for you, what things that you want to do with your life, what direction that you want to go in your life. I feel like it's an extremely important thing. So solitude is extremely important for knowledge of self. I'm a firm believer in that. And even once you get out of this transformation period, you're still going to need solitude in your life from time to time. You're going to need that healthy balance of socialization and solitude in order to grow. Because in my opinion, we grow the most when we're in solitude, when we have time to kind of have that self-talk, that time where we can kind of look in the mirror and figure things out from being by ourselves. So solitude is extremely important for growth. And as far as making that transformation, once you're going into your 30s, or maybe you're in your early 30s, solitude is going to be number one on my list. So number two on the list is going to be develop healthy habits. A lot of times in our 20s, we can develop habits that aren't necessarily the best for ourselves. Everybody has their different vices. For some people, it might be smoking weed. For some people, it might be drinking. For some people, it might be chasing women. Whatever it may be for you, we all kind of have our own vices. We have, things that aren't necessarily the healthiest. It might be your diet, which can be extremely unhealthy. It could be lack of movement. So these are all things that we need to take into consideration. And developing healthy habits and developing some self-discipline is something that's going to be extremely important going into your 30s. A lot of times we can not be in our most serious mindset in our 20s, but going into your 30s, not saying that you need to be overly serious or, just be on 120% grind all the time, but it is good to start developing some self-discipline, some non-negotiable habits that you have every single day. I would recommend a fitness routine. I would recommend certain things that you're doing in terms of your diet, developing a healthy diet, water intake. These are all things that are extremely important as far as being healthy. A lot of times we can get caught up of the external appearance of health, a six pack or having muscles or, managing a certain weight. But a lot of times we don't necessarily think about the internal aspects of health. So, once you turn 30, you have to think that, a lot of times people's metabolism starts to slow down. So you have to start doing things a little bit different in terms of the way you eat. So for myself, when I turned 30, I kind of started changing a lot of things in my diet. I started doing intermittent fasting. I went more into a plant-based diet. I actually was vegan and vegetarian probably around the ages of like 32 to maybe 34, 32 to 33 and a half, something like that. So I got pretty serious in terms of really making some changes in my diet. Obviously, I'm not a vegan anymore. I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but it was something that I wanted to do to make a change in terms of like a cleansing for myself. And I think it actually made a huge difference in terms of my overall health. So a cleanse is something good, and most of the time when people think of a cleanse, it's something that you do for a week or a month or something like that. You might need to make a bigger, more drastic cleanse in your life because of years of bad habits, years of over-consuming alcohol, years of over-consuming unhealthy foods, years of eating fried chicken, whatever it may be. So that's going to be something extremely important. Getting your diet together, developing a workout routine is something extremely important. So I highly recommend that you develop a workout routine. And on this note right here, if you guys need help developing a workout routine, or if you guys need help with your diet, you can hit my website up. That's Travelsthenix.com. You can either book a free consultation with me so we can chop it up about this, or I have workout programs available on my website. One of them is an 8-week program for beginners, and the next one is a 12-week program for people who are new to calisthenics but might have a little bit of a workout history. So these are things that you guys can do. These are options that you guys can do in order to build that workout routine, to build that workout regimen. And this is all with body weight and calisthenics. Also, I have a book about intermittent fasting on my website, an ebook, and also I have a recipe book as well. So number 3 on the list is going to be get out of your comfort zone, start trying things that are new. Start trying new hobbies, start trying new activities, start doing things that make you feel a little bit uncomfortable. I definitely remember around the age of 30, this is when I really started getting into this practice. One of my friends that I went to high school with, we actually weren't even friends in high school, but we used to go to the same gym together around the age of 30. And I remember right around the time when we turned 30, I remember he was really big on like trying new things. And he actually had invited me to come to a couple different activities with him. And I remember the first one was started taking boxing lessons. So it was something that I had never done in my life. I like the sport of boxing, but I never took actual boxing lessons. So I ended up getting a membership at this boxing gym, and I started taking boxing lessons probably like 2 or 3 times per week. And it was a really good practice, and it was something that honestly I wish I would have kept doing, but I ended up moving to Hawaii. And when I moved to Hawaii, they didn't really have any like boxing gyms out there. They were more into MMA, so I didn't really necessarily follow through with it, but it was something fun, and it was something that was new, and it got me out of my comfort zone. Another thing that I started doing around, not 30 years old exactly, but in my early 30s, was I started doing calisthenics, and that actually ended up being a thing that I really loved and I really enjoyed doing, and it's something that I'm still practicing till this day. It doesn't necessarily need to be a physical activity that you're doing, that you're getting out of your comfort zone. Although physical activities are always good, so you might want to learn how to dance salsa, bachata, something like that. These are all fun activities, and you can also meet some interesting people when you're doing a lot of these different activities. But it could also be something like computer programming. It could also be a certain skill set that you might want to develop. So these are all extremely important things to get outside of your comfort zone. Also, another thing it could just be traveling. You might be somebody who's turning 30 years old and you've never really went anywhere. So it's extremely important. I feel like it's extremely important for us to travel the world, get outside of our environment, get a bigger world view. So that might be something else that you want to start doing around the age of 30. So number 4, this is actually going to be linked up with number 3, and that is start your journey of mastery. So once you've, got outside of your comfort zone, you've tried all these different activities, more than likely you're going to have figured out one thing that you're a little bit better at than the others, or something that you actually enjoy doing a lot more than the others. And once you figure that out, you can actually start diving in deeper on, whatever this hobby or whatever this activity is that you started to enjoy, you started to see that you got a knack at. And this is, starting that journey of mastery. For myself, it's been calisthenics, it's been video production, it's been something that I've really been enjoying over the past 5 years. And I wouldn't necessarily say I've achieved mastery at either one of these things, but I have gotten to a higher level at both of them, especially when it comes down to calisthenics. Once you're like 2 or 3 years into your journey, you'll start really seeing some of these mental limitations that you might have had in your past start to evaporate. And these glass ceilings that you have over your head, or these glass walls that you have in front of yourself, they just start disappearing, and you're able to start moving through and accomplishing things that you never really thought you were able to accomplish to begin with. And for me, that's been a big thing. Especially when it comes down to calisthenics, because it's something actually physical. So you start seeing your body is doing things that you really never actually anticipated it ever to be able to do. So, start that journey of mastery once you've actually figured out what it is that you want. It's all a process, but start diving deeper into the things that you're really passionate about. All right, so number 5 on the list, I guess you could say all these things are kind of connected. But number 5 on the list is going to be investing in yourself. And when it comes down to self-investments, these are the type of investments that are more so, if you're a computer programmer, invest in educating yourself about computer programming. If you're a calisthenics athlete, invest in, the right type of equipment. If you want to start a YouTube channel, invest in a good camera, invest in a computer so you can edit videos. Invest in all the materials that you're going to need on your journey to mastery, on your journey to, fulfilling your purpose, on your journey to accomplishing your goals. These are all extremely important. I think investing your money is something that's pretty good as well. I'm not necessarily here to give financial advice on what you should invest in, real estate or cryptocurrency or anything of that nature. But I do think that, investing in yourself is actually more important than these things, because, you can think, long term, if I invest in the stock market, I'll be able to retire off that. But there's really no guarantees when it comes down to investing into somebody else, because you never know who's actually behind these, stocks, or you don't necessarily know who's actually behind these cryptocurrencies or whatever it may be. You might be investing into mediocre people who aren't very passionate about what they're doing. And a lot of times you are actually investing in mediocre people who aren't passionate about what they're doing, because a lot of these companies hire mediocre workers, and a lot of these companies hire mediocre workers who really don't care much about the overall vision itself. But when it comes down to investing in yourself, hopefully you're very passionate about self-development and self-improvement. So if that's the case, then 100% what you're investing into. All right, guys, number 6 on the list is going to be travel. I think travel is something that's extremely important in our lives. Seeing other parts of the world, seeing other cultures, developing a bigger perspective, kind of understanding a lot of things that are outside of our comfort zone or outside of our little bubble that we might have grown up in, or the type of bubble that we actually live in. For myself, I've been all over the world. And I think travel has probably given me the most perspective on, the type of privileges that I've had coming up, and also the type of opportunities that are out there. And also, you get to mix and mingle with all different people. I've kicked it with people who come from nothing, and I've also kicked it with people who are extremely rich and well off. And I've been to countries where people are struggling super hard, and I've also been to countries where, there's the land of milk and honey. There's opportunities everywhere. I've even gotten a chance to live in other countries. I've lived in Japan, and I've actually been in South America for about 6 months now. Travel is gonna give you all different types of experiences, and these experiences are really gonna be priceless. Honestly, a lot of times the way I think about what I've done in my 30s and what I did in my 20s as well is, instead of investing maybe into a home or investing, you know, a ton of my money into the stock market, I've actually invested in a lot of experiences. And a lot of the times, a lot of these stocks or maybe these physical assets that we actually put our money into, you can lose these things. The stock market's not necessarily guaranteed, but a lot of the things that we learn along the way of our travel experiences and a lot of these experiences that we have in general can never be taken away from us. And a lot of times, the things that you might learn while traveling can create opportunities for you to make way more money than what maybe some real estate might have done for you or what some type of stock could have done for you. And for myself, I actually have direct experience with that because I used to live in Japan. And when I lived in Japan, I had an Airbnb business. And the reason why I was able to start that Airbnb business is because I kind of found a way to make some money while I was traveling. One time when I went to Japan, there was no hotels available, and a friend of mine told me to check into Airbnb. So I looked at Airbnb prices in Japan. I didn't even know what Airbnb was at the time, and the prices were like $150 a night. And at the time, I had a lot of friends that were actually living in Japan, and I knew that the price to rent an apartment in Japan was like $450, maybe $550, $600 max to rent like a one-bedroom apartment in Japan. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, man, these dudes is charging $150 a night, and they only paying $400, $500, $600 in rent. They making money hand over fist. So as soon as I saw that move, I was like, man, let me do whatever I need to do to get an apartment. So what I ended up doing, I ended up meeting a young lady out there. She ended up putting the apartment in her name, and I ended up starting off with one apartment, making a bunch of money on that, and then I expanded. Eventually, 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, I had like 10 to 12 apartments that I was 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, I had like 10 to 12 apartments I was renting out on Airbnb. So it ended up being a really good money-making opportunity, and this all just stemmed from me actually just taking a vacation in Japan. And my number 7 piece of advice for you guys is to not take this too serious. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Life is all about growth, but at the same time, life is also to be enjoyed as well. So we don't need to be on a 24/7 grind all the time. We don't need to be putting so much pressure on ourselves that we're building up all types of stressing ourselves out. Because, when it comes down to putting all that stress and that pressure on yourself, you're probably taking years off your life. So it's okay to have that slice of cake. It's okay to take that day to just go walk around the city and explore new neighborhoods. It's okay to go out on a date and kick it, and chill, have a couple drinks, do whatever it is. It's okay to go out to a bar or a club with your friends from time to time. Still enjoy life, but at the same time, have an overall vision and an overall goal for yourself. Like I said, in the beginning process, you're gonna wanna have a little bit more solitude, but kind of once you go through that initial cleanse and kind of develop a little bit more knowledge of self for yourself, it's okay to take your foot off the gas a little bit. So that's pretty much my advice to you guys, or my tips for you guys to make a transformation going into your 30s. For myself, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I never really had anything going on in my 20s, because I did. Like I said, I started an Airbnb business in Japan, and I started that Airbnb business, I think, when I was about 28 years old. And I've always kind of been a fairly ambitious person. I've, tried my hand in a few different entrepreneurship ideas, a few different businesses. I did like a clothing business at one point. And, I traveled the world a lot in my 20s as well. But I really made the biggest transformation for myself when I was in my early 30s. And that transformation included me to stop consuming so much alcohol, me to leave the nightlife party scene alone, me to stop chasing women so much. That was a problem that I had, was the fact that I never really had any solitude, because I always felt like I needed a woman around, or I always felt like I needed a woman's company. And women's company and female companionship is extremely important in life. And it's something that we should want to have as, in our overall goals, and we should want to have a good woman by our side. But it's not 100% necessary. So a lot of times we might be in a situation where we don't have that female companionship, and that doesn't make us any less of a man. For myself, I always felt like I needed that woman around to make me feel like a man. Not only just one woman, I felt like I need to have multiple women around. having one girlfriend wasn't good enough for me when I was in my 20s. I needed to have a girlfriend, and I needed to have 3 or 4 women on the side to make me feel like I was a real man. In all reality, it was the exact opposite, because I was behaving like a teenager. You know what I mean? I was behaving like a boy. So these are things that you kind of learn along the ways. And you know, there's going to be different times in your life, maybe where you have a solid female in your life, and then there's also going to be times in your life where you have a little bit more solitude. Right now for me is one of those times in my life where I actually have a little bit more solitude, and I'm not necessarily tripping off the relationships because I'm so focused on what I'm doing. But in the back of my head, actually not even in the back of my head, I know what I want from a woman now, because I'm a little bit older. I got a little bit more kind of understanding, because I've had different experiences in life. And on top of that, because of what I'm doing with my life, I know what type of woman is gonna fit into my life. You know, because of the type of lifestyle that I live, I know, okay, this woman's not gonna fit because, you know, her lifestyle and my lifestyle don't mix. Like, I'm into health and fitness and traveling, and this woman might be just into going to the local bar every single weekend, or she might be into eating a bunch of junk food or something like that. So it's like, that doesn't necessarily help me get to my overall goals. So these are things that you learn along the ways. I didn't really want to make this video about women too much, but obviously women are a big aspect of our life as well. But guys, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Get outside of your comfort zone, develop healthy habits, start a fitness regimen, become the best version of yourself. If you guys need any help or any more kind of one-on-one thing, hit my website up and book that free 15-minute consultation with me. Again, that's travelsthenix.com. Book a free consultation with me today. Hope everybody's having a great day out there. Hope I might have been able to help you guys out with a couple of these tips. I'll highlight you guys later. Peace.